All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our Microsoft Teams Fundamentals training. My name is Shane Jaspers, and I will be leading our training today. I used to work for the Microsoft Store in Pentagon City, Virginia, but recently we made our switch to remote operations, and I am now working for the Impact Enterprise Department, and it is my job to ensure that our customers are successful when using our products and services. Real quick, I just want to give you a little introduction if you have not attended a live event with us before. In the lower right-hand corner of the screen, somewhere below my mouse, you should see a closed caption button. Because this live event is being recorded, there are closed captions that are automatically generated. And if you click on that button, it looks like a little CC inside of a box. Then you should be able to enable those automatically generated closed captions. If that does not work, there should be a cog or gear icon somewhere in that same area. You can click on that and enable your captions or subtitles from there. And then over on the right side of the screen, just to the right of my cursor, you should see a question and answer section. And you can go in there and submit any questions that you have about Microsoft Teams, and I will do my best to answer them. I also have Abby, also from Microsoft, here on the call, and she is going to be moderating the questions as well. She will be answering anything that she can, but if there's anything that needs a broader demonstration in the live demo, she'll let me know, and we'll go over that live in the presentation. So before I get into the introduction, I do just want to talk about our upcoming schedule for the rest of September. We will probably be having some events in October as well, but they have not been finalized yet. So for now, we just have our September calendar. I do want to let you know that if you were in any of our previous trainings and you saw this calendar and maybe you took a screenshot or something like that, these last two trainings have actually switched. We now have app integration on the 24th and fundamentals with emphasis on best practices on the 29th. Originally, those two were switched. So I do just want to let you know that if you already had a copy of this calendar, you might want to grab this one instead so that you are showing up for the proper trainings. But today we have Teams Fundamentals. On Thursday, we're going to have productivity. Next Tuesday, we're doing live events. Thursday is app integration. And then the following Tuesday will be fundamentals with emphasis on best practices. Alrighty, so let's talk about Microsoft Teams and what it is. If this is your first time learning about Microsoft Teams, welcome. We absolutely love having new people here learning about Microsoft Teams with us. Sorry, let me just get my screen switched over here. All right, so Microsoft Teams is the hub for teamwork in Office 365. It integrates Office 365 productivity tools in one place and is the next level of communication through chat and calls and collaboration through file sharing, co-authoring, and screen sharing. As you can see right here, it does allow you to collaborate and communicate seamlessly. It brings all of the files that matter into one place, and it has all of your tools in one place. I'm not going to go super deep into these right now because a lot of these I will be talking about during the training itself. But one thing I do want to really focus on during this introduction is this part right here, built on Sharepoint. Now, if you've never used Sharepoint before, or maybe you've used it a little bit, but you're not really familiar with what exactly it is, there is one thing I do want to talk about real quick, and that is Microsoft 365 groups. The reason I bring that up is they were previously called Office 365 groups. They're now Microsoft 365 groups. But essentially, when you create a Microsoft 365 group, you create either a private one or a public one, and then invite the people that you want to be in that group. Everybody in that group gets a shared Outlook inbox. They get a shared Outlook calendar, a shared OneNote notebook, but they also get a shared SharePoint site with a document library. So when you create a Microsoft 365 group, you are able to share documents very easily with everybody else in that group. And when we start to talk about Teams today, the reason I bring that up is the fact that Teams is built on SharePoint. Every team has its own associated Microsoft 365 group with its own SharePoint library. And so all the files that you share within Teams are actually going to go to that SharePoint library. And I will talk about that more specifically when I talk about the document sharing in Teams. We like to refer to Teams as having the 3 C's: communication, collaboration, and customization. You can communicate through chat, meetings, and calls. You can collaborate together with integrated Office 365 apps, and you can customize your workplace and achieve more. I know there's also a fourth point here: make calls in Office 365 at Teams. And the reason that's not part of the 3 C's is that does require an additional license. You will need to integrate it with your phone system so that you can call into meetings or make calls, have your own Teams phone number, and so on and so forth. But if that is something that is available to you, we will briefly go over some of the features available with that license. And then lastly, I do want to talk about Teams and its cross-platform experience. So the best way to use Teams is going to be right here, the desktop application. And that works on Windows 8 and up, and Mac OS X 10.11 and up. And that is 100% the best experience for using Teams is the desktop app. All of the features that come to Teams will go to the desktop app first, and eventually will go to the mobile and web apps. However, if you are on the go, then the mobile app is definitely a suitable replacement for the desktop app. There are only a few things that you can't do in the mobile app, but most of the features of Teams are going to be present in the mobile app, and it is available for iOS and Android. Lastly, we have the web app, and that is actually what I'm going to be demoing to you today. And the reason I'll be demoing the web app to you is because I am actually presenting through my desktop app for this live event, and I can't demo the desktop app and present through it at the same time. So I'm going to be going into the web app and showing you what that looks like with a demo environment. The demo environment is a government environment, so it will have many of the same features that most of you have access to as well. But if you want to use the web app, I highly recommend using either the new version of Edge that runs on Chromium or Google Chrome. Alrighty, so let's get started talking or showing Microsoft Teams. Let me switch on over to the web application. And here we go. So here we are in Microsoft Teams. And to get to Microsoft Teams in the web app, it's pretty simple. Just go to teams.microsoft.com. The first time you go there, it will prompt you to log in with your work account. And once you log in, you then have a couple choices. If you are on your computer, it'll give you the choice to work in the web app, or you can download the desktop app directly from that website if it's not already installed on your computer. If it is already installed on your computer, the web will ask you if you would rather open up Teams on your computer than in the web app. However, if you say no, you can go directly to the web app. You can also access Teams from the app launcher in the upper left-hand corner from any other Microsoft 365 program that is open in the web. So if you have any of those other programs open, you can just click on the Waffle app launcher in the upper left, and you'll see that Teams is one of your options. If you don't see it in this list, you can always click on Microsoft 365. It might say Office 365 for you, depending on your license, and that will take you to your Office portal, where you can then find Microsoft Teams. If you visit teams.microsoft.com on your smartphone, it will prompt you to download the smartphone app. However, you can just go to the App Store or the Android store to download Microsoft Teams, the app, from there. So before I break into the individual parts of Microsoft Teams, I do want to give a quick overview of the user interface and what you are going to be looking at once you are logged into Microsoft Teams. So I already talked about this app launcher in the upper left-hand corner, but next in the top bar, we have this button, which is the new chat button. And we will be talking about chat extensively and the benefits it offers to you. But anytime you want to start a new chat with somebody, you can click on that button, type in their name, and you'll be able to start a chat. The cool thing about this is if you type in the name of somebody that you already have an ongoing chat with, it will actually just take you to that chat. I'm going to get rid of that new chat though. Next to that, we have the search bar. And the search bar in Microsoft Teams is very comprehensive. It is a robust search experience, and you are able to search for pretty much anything that you have access to in Microsoft Teams. You can search through messages, you can search through files, you can search for people. One example I can give you is I was looking for a PowerPoint presentation that was uploaded by a coworker of mine, and I just searched that coworker's name, narrowed the search down by files, and I was able to see all of the files that she had uploaded, and there was the PowerPoint I was looking for. However, it's only going to show files that she uploaded that I have access to. So if she uploaded a file in a team that I'm not a part of, then I wouldn't see that file unless she had also uploaded it to a team I was a part of. But that is something we will get to shortly when we talk about file management within Teams. Over here in the upper right-hand corner, we have the settings menu for Teams. Here you can see this is my name, Shane Jaspers. This is a demo account, however, so I'm not going to have all of the same things that I have in my normal Teams account, but most of my stuff will be here. We have our availability. We can set a status message, view our saved messages, and open up settings. I'm not going to go into all of this right now. We will go over it near the end of the training. So over here on the left, we have our navigation bar. Right next to our navigation bar, we have our selection menu. And then taking up most of the screen, we have our content. So when we are looking at things like activity, chat, and Teams, you'll notice that there's always a selection menu over here on the left that lets us choose what exactly we are looking for. And then when we choose these different options, our content menu will change and show us what is in each of those options. So in activity, we are going to see our notification feed. These are essentially just like notifications that you may have seen on a smartphone or in a social media website. If you are familiar with receiving notifications and going through your notification feed there, then you should be familiar with what notifications are like in Microsoft Teams. These are going to be times that I have been added to a team or I have been mentioned. I was made an owner of a private channel. Akash right here reacted to a message that I sent. So all of these are notifications that I have received in Teams. They are basically things that require my attention. So whenever I haven't been using Teams, maybe I come back on Monday after the weekend and I want to see what I've missed. Maybe I have coworkers who were working over the weekend. I can go straight to activity and I can view all of my notifications. Now underneath activity, we have our chat menu. And I'm going to go deeper into this in just a couple minutes when I'm done our user interface tour. But essentially, these are where your private chats are. Chats are either one-on-one or in groups of up to 100 people. And like I said, they are private. So these are going to be places where you're going to have more fluid, free-flowing conversations with your coworkers as opposed to Teams. Where Teams are where you will have your more structured conversations. That's more about getting information out to everybody, whereas chats are more about conversations. So speaking of teams, here we have all of our teams, and this is where those teams will live. As you can see, each of these teams has channels underneath it, and essentially a team is a workspace that you are either an owner or a member of. And teams are all made up of channels and tabs. And as you can see, each of these teams has channels within it. But I will explain more about what that means when I get to this portion of the training. Right now, I'm just doing an overview. Underneath that, we have our calendar. And if you are familiar with Microsoft Outlook, then the calendar in Teams should look pretty familiar to you. It is very similar to the calendar in Outlook. They have a lot of similarities. In fact, all of the events in both will overlap with each other. However, there are some differences depending on where you create the events, and we will talk about that a little bit later as well. The two menu options that I'm not going to go into in depth are these two, calls and files. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what those are right now, and then we probably will not be coming back to them later. So calls, if you do not have the license that allows you to use a Teams phone number or call into meetings, this is simply just your place where you can call other Teams users. You have your speed dial, where you can add people that you contact often. We have our contacts, which is different than our address book. See, when Teams is created, it pulls the address book for your organization, and you'll be able to find anybody in there. So for example, I can, oh, that's my contacts, I'm sorry. I can search for Adam up here, and you'll see Adam still shows up. And I can still click on his name, I can still call him, but if I wanted to have him in my contacts, I could click add to contact here, I could search for Adam, and then I can add Adam to my list of contacts, and now he shows up here. Essentially, your contacts are going to be the people that you want to keep in contact with, and speed dial is going to be different than your contacts. These are going to be the people that you are in contact with the most. Other than that, we just have our call history and our voicemail. So if anybody calls you via Teams and you don't pick up, there is a voicemail. That's about it for this menu, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, I don't use this menu a lot because it's very easy to call somebody directly from a team or a chat that you have with that person, and that's usually how I do it in my day-to-day life. This menu is more just for seeing your contacts. And then underneath calls, we have our files menu, and you can see it's divided up into recent and Microsoft Teams, as well as our OneDrive cloud storage. Because I'm logged in with my business account, if I click on this, it will take me to my OneDrive for Business account, and I can go through and look at all of my files in there. If I click on Microsoft Teams here, it is actually going to show me all of the files that I have access to in Microsoft Teams. There's not a ton, but you can see them all right here. But you might be able to tell that they're not super well organized. I mean, you can sort them by all of these columns here. But once you get access to a lot of different files and Teams, this menu is going to be pretty overwhelming pretty quickly. So the reason I don't go into this too much is I find it much easier to just search for the files you're looking for via the search bar up here, as opposed to coming to this menu. However, if you just want to look through your OneDrive real quick, you can do that right here. You can add alternative cloud storage if your company or organization is using a different cloud storage. But that's about it for this menu. Lastly, I do just want to briefly talk about the help menu here, because if you ever want to learn more about Teams, you can come to this help menu and go through the articles and videos they have available, and you can even click on these links and they will take you to the Microsoft support site where you can learn all sorts of things about using Teams. So if you want to learn more about Teams in the future, I highly recommend using that menu, and you can always click on where it says Microsoft Teams here to go to the basic Teams help and learning site. It's a lot of information there. It's super useful. And if you want to get even more technical, you can go to my favorite website, which is docs.microsoft.com. I can show you that real quick. And this actually gives you very detailed technical documentation on all of Microsoft's products and services. So if you want a deeper dive into Teams, definitely recommend coming here, finding Microsoft Teams, clicking on that, and you can see all sorts of interesting information about Microsoft Teams. Don't want to overwhelm you too much though, so I'm not going to go into that any further. Just wanted to let you know that that is there. All right, so that is everything for our tour. Let's start talking about all the features of Teams and how you can use them in your day-to-day life. So I'm going back to chat over here on the left side of the screen. And like I said, we have our selection menu here and we have our content menu over here. And I have a chat with Adam down here. But like I said, if I click new chat up here and I type Adam's name, you'll see that it brings up my chat with Adam. And here we have all of my chat history. One question we get a lot from people who are using Teams is, how do I delete my chat history? And the short answer is you can't. The long answer is by putting a ticket in with your system admin, and if they deem it necessary, they can go in and do it. But it is a process, and basically you can't delete your chat history. You can hide an individual chat, and you will no longer see that chat in your list over here, but your chat history will still be persistent. And the next time you start up a chat with that person, they will show up in your list over here. So let's go ahead and say hello. And now you can see that my chat with Adam has moved up to the top of the recent chats menu. So all of our chats here over on the left are sorted from most recent to oldest. And sometimes that can get a little overwhelming, especially because whenever you are in a meeting, that meeting also has a chat as well. So any chat you see with this little calendar icon over on the left side of it means that this was a chat that was created through a meeting. And every time you're in a new meeting, you'll have a chat for that meeting. So it can get a little bit overwhelming having all of these chats over here. So what do you do if there's somebody that you're working with a lot and you want to make sure that you can always access their chat anytime? Well, that's pretty easy. When we hover over this chat, you will see an ellipsis show up right here. And anytime you see an ellipsis, that means more options. There are more things that you can do. So we're going to click on that. And as you can see, we have a lot of options here, but the one I'm interested in is pin right here. And if I click on that, you'll see that Adam's name now shows up in the pinned chats up here. And if I were to, let's say, start another chat with Abby and say hello. Now my chat with Abby has moved up to the top of my recent menu, but my chat with Adam is still up here at the top under pinned. In fact, if I don't want to look at these other chats, I can even click on where it says recent, and it'll just minimize all those chats, and I don't even need to look at them. So that is a great way to organize your chats, is by pinning the ones that are the most useful to you. I will let you know that I just discovered a couple weeks ago that there is a limit to how many chats you can have pinned. You can only have 15 chats pinned. However, that is a lot of chats, so hopefully you will not need to pin any more than that. So now that we've talked a little bit about managing these chats over here, let's talk about what we can do in chats. So like I said, the chats are private, and they are essentially a free-flowing conversation, much like a text message thread or a direct message thread in social media or instant messaging, if you remember that. Every time somebody sends a new message, it shows up at the bottom of the screen, and it's always going to be in that order. Now, we just have to click on this text bar down here to send a message, as you saw me send hello earlier. And you'll notice when I hover over this message, I actually have some options available to me here as well. These are called reactions, and I can react to any message, either something that I sent, or I can react to something that Adam sent, so I can give that a like. I could also give it a heart. I can laugh, be surprised, be sad, be angry. And again, we have our nice little ellipsis menu telling us we have more options. And if you look at that, I can save this message, I can mark it as unread, or I can even translate it. Now, if I am hovering over my own message, I actually have some other options available to me too. I can edit it, and I can delete it. Now keep in mind that these options are something that are able to be disabled. at the system administrator level. So if you do not see these options in your list, that means that they have been disabled for your organization. Now let's talk about some of the options we have when sending a message. So down underneath here, we have our formatting menu. So if I click on this, it brings up our formatting menu for our chats. So we can change how our fonts look. We can change our paragraph formatting, bullets, numbered lists, quotations, all that fun stuff. We can add a whole bunch of cool things here. Next to that, we have our exclamation point, and those are the urgent delivery options. Now, if I click on this second one here, important, you'll see that it says important here, and I can say this message is very important. And when I send that message, you'll see it's a little bit more eye-catching. It's got the red highlight to it, it says important, and it's got this little red bubble with an exclamation point inside it. Also, when Adam receives this message in his list right here, there will actually be an exclamation point on the side of the list showing him that there is an important message waiting for him. Same when he looks at his activity, he will see a notification saying that he has received an important message. So when you send an important message, it will customize the notification so that the recipient knows that that message is important. However, there's another option under here, which is urgent, and this is not one you want to take lightly. If you send an urgent message, the recipient will be notified on every version of Teams that they have every 2 minutes for 20 minutes that they have a notification. And that can be a great way to lose some friends in the workplace if you overuse this urgent messaging. However, I have had it used on me a couple times in the past by my manager when he really needed to get to talk to me. And I will tell you that it did the trick. It made me notice that my phone was going crazy while I was out of the apartment, and I was able to respond to him quickly. After 20 minutes, it will stop notifying them. However, they will get an email saying that they missed an urgent message in Microsoft Teams. Next to that, we have the Paperclip, which allows us to attach files to our chat. So you'll notice that we have two options here. We have OneDrive and we have Upload from my computer. Now, if I click on OneDrive here, it'll bring up my OneDrive library and it'll allow me to go in and find some files that I already have uploaded to OneDrive and share them directly through my chat. However, if I upload from my computer, that allows me to take a file that I have saved on my computer, but I haven't already uploaded to OneDrive, and share it through Teams. However, upon doing that, it will actually upload it to my OneDrive. So you'll notice in OneDrive, I have a folder called Microsoft Teams Chat Files. And if you do not already have that folder and you upload a file from your computer using this option right here, then Microsoft Teams will create that folder and will save that file to that folder. So you'll notice here, I uploaded a PowerPoint presentation. And if I go into my OneDrive here and go into Microsoft Teams chat files, you will see that PowerPoint presentation is here in Microsoft Teams chat files. So anytime you share a file within a chat in Microsoft Teams, it will have to share through OneDrive. If you already have it in OneDrive, that's great. It'll just share it that way. If you don't already have it in OneDrive, it will upload it to OneDrive in that Microsoft Teams chat files folder and then share it. After the attachment paperclip, we have the fun stuff. Here we have some little animated emojis that are pretty fun. Next to that, we have our GIF menu where you can send animated pictures to people to express how you are feeling. And then we have our stickers and memes menu where you can create your own stickers and memes to say just how much you love Teams. So I can say, much love, Teams, great. And there we go. I can just send that on over to Adam and he can see that meme that I made. So those are some fun things that you can create. And with our workforce being so spread across all the generations and age groups now, there are definitely going to be some people who are really into that kind of thing. Next to that, we have the ability to schedule a meeting, which I'm not going to go into right now. We'll save that for the calendar portion of the training. But I did just want to bring your attention to the fact that when you are in a one-on-one chat or a group chat, you can click on this button to immediately invite everybody in your chat to a meeting. Next to that, we have the stream button, and the stream button allows us to paste a link from Microsoft Stream. Now, Microsoft Stream is essentially a video hosting platform offered by Microsoft to organizations. You can upload videos to Microsoft Stream in your organization, and only people within your organization will be able to watch them. It's pretty cool. You can make your own channels. You can also upload videos for your Microsoft 365 groups, remember them, and share them that way. And if you have a video or a channel that you want to share in a chat, you can click on this link and click on this button and directly paste that link and embed that video directly within Teams. It's pretty cool. So those are all the options we have under here. There are just a couple more things I want to mention. I did mention reacting to images or reacting to messages before, and there is one thing I forgot to mention, and that is basically the #1 reason that reactions are great is you can tell somebody that you read a message or how you feel about a message without having to actually type it out. So for example, I could say, please react once you've seen this image. And now when Adam reads this message, he'll know that I want him to react to this image saying that he's seen it. That can be helpful if you are in a large group chat with a lot of people, or you're in a team with a lot of people and you want to make sure everybody has read something, but you don't want to get overwhelmed with replies of people saying, okay, I've read it. You can say, please react to this message once you've read it. And you can put that at the end so you know only people who have fully read it are going to react to it. And then once people have reacted to it, you can hover over the reactions and you will see a list of everyone who has reacted to it. So you can go and check and make sure that people are reading your messages. Alrighty. Everything else that we have in chat are going to be things that I'm going to go over a little bit more in Teams, like tabs up here at the top. We have tabs available to us in chat. However, I'm going to go over tabs when I talk about Teams themselves, so I'm not going to go over those right now. One more thing I do want to mention, in the upper right-hand corner here, we do have the ability to quickly make calls to the people we are chatting with. Right now, I can make a video call or I can make an audio call. And this is what I was talking about when I don't really use the calls menu over here in Microsoft Teams. I much prefer, because the people that I'm calling in Teams are honestly the ones that I have pinned anyway. So I usually just click on their name and click on call up here. Keep in mind that if you are in a group chat and you click one of these buttons, it is actually going to ring everybody in that group chat. So again, you definitely want to be careful when you're clicking those buttons here. And then speaking of group chats, over here next to those buttons, we have the ability to add people. So if I wanted to create a group chat, I could start typing Abby's name right there and click on add. And now you'll see that my message history with Adam is gone. I have now created an entirely new group chat with Abby and Adam. And I can say hello. And now that I am saying hello in this group chat, maybe I want to specify who I am talking to. So that brings us to one of the other things that you can do in chats and in Teams is you can mention people. So if you type the @ symbol or Shift-2, you'll see that I now get a list of people in the group chat, and I can say, Adam, can you please call me when you are available? you know, if I can type, which I don't think I can ever do. And now that I have said that, you'll see that Adam's name has changed to a link. I can hover over it. I can see his information. I can chat directly with him. I can email him. I can view his organization. I can video call him, and I can audio call him, or just directly send him a message right here. And that has also sent him a special kind of notification. If you remember back here in activity, right here, I have Akash mentioned me. If I go over here, you'll see that this is what it looks like when I am mentioned on the other end. You'll see that he actually mentioned both myself and Bonnie. Bonnie appears just like Adam's name just did with the purple highlight, but my name is bold and highlighted in orange. In addition to that, the entire message is highlighted in orange over here on the left, and there is an orange @ symbol over on the right. So this is telling me that Akash really needed my attention on August 20th. And so he wanted to make sure that I knew that I was getting this, and I got a special notification for it. So mentioning people is a great way to get their attention when you need them, and it's especially useful in group chats and teams when you have multiple people, and you can also make sure that that person knows that you are talking to them. Now, I have a group chat with myself, Abby, and Adam, but what happens if I want to add one more person? So I can click on this up here, and now you'll see that I see a list of people in this group chat. There's a little X next to their names, and I can remove them from the group chat if I wish. I can also leave the group chat, but here I can add people, and you'll notice that this is going to look a little different than the last time we added somebody to this chat. Now I have the option to include all chat history, only include chat history from the past number of days, or not include chat history at all. So for example, if I wanted to invite Bonnie to this chat, and maybe Abby and Adam were talking about Bonnie right before I invited her to this chat, maybe I don't want to include the chat history. But this is a pretty new chat, and nobody's been talking about anybody behind their back because we're all very polite employees. So I'm going to click include all chat history, and I'm going to add Bonnie to the chat. And now you'll see a message has appeared that Shane Jaspers has added Bonnie Jones to the chat and shared all chat history. So everybody can see the message. It tells everyone that Bonnie has been added to the chat, and she can see everything in the chat. So people will know whether or not she has access to the chat history. Now I have multiple people in this chat with me, and you'll see that up here at the top and over here on the left, it just shows the list of names, and that's not very helpful. So if I want to change the name, I can click on this pencil right here, and I can call it the Microsoft Crew, click Save, and there we go. We've got our chat name over here on the left, we've got our chat name up here at the top, and there's even a message saying that I've changed the chat name. And the last thing I want to point out about group chats is, let's say I decide that I didn't want Bonnie in here after all. I'm going to click on this X to remove her. You will see remove Bonnie Jones from the conversation. They will still have access to the chat history. So if you invite somebody to a chat and you share the chat history with them, they will always have access to that chat history. If you do not share the chat history with them, but messages were sent while they were in the chat, they will still have access to that chat history. Once you remove them, they will no longer receive new messages from the chat, but I do just want to let everybody know that those people will have access to that chat history. All right, so that is about everything when it comes to chats. Let's go ahead and move on to the Teams portion of this training, which, as you can probably guess by the name, this is really the biggest part of this application of Microsoft Teams, and as such, this will probably be the longest portion of the training because there's a lot to go over. But there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do here. So, like I already mentioned, every team is divided up into channels. So if I click on this team, you'll see channels here. And each channel is actually divided up into tabs up here in the top. And I'm going to bring up just an analogy that or maybe it's a simile or a metaphor. I'm not sure which one, but essentially a team is like a house, and many people can live in that house, just like there can be many people within a team. And every house has rooms. It has multiple rooms. There could be a lot of rooms. There could be few rooms, but each room has a purpose. Now, technically, I could do any activity I wanted in any room. For example, I could go to the attic to cook dinner if I really wanted to, but I would probably want to go to the kitchen to cook dinner because the kitchen has all the resources that I need to cook dinner. And those resources are like the tabs at the top of each channel. They are like the appliances and furniture within each room that help you accomplish the goals that you have within each of those rooms. So we have our team, which is like the house, our channels, which are like the rooms, and then our tabs, which are like the appliances and furniture in those rooms that help us accomplish our goals. So you really want to make sure that the conversations you are having in each of these channels is relevant to the subject of the channel. So this team, for example, is our newsletter team, and everybody in this team is responsible for something when it comes to creating our newsletter. Now we do have a general channel because every team is created with a general channel, and that is usually where our general conversations will go on. Information that it just needs to be sent out to everybody in the team without a specific context can be posted in here. But we also have our roles and responsibilities channel. And here we have our resource. You can see an Excel file was added at the top. That is one of the tabs up here. And let's just go look at that real quick. And this Excel file has the roles and responsibilities of everybody in this team. So if I join this team and I want to know what my role and responsibility is, I know that I'm going to click on this channel right here, and here we have our file up there. So that's a general overview of teams and channels and tabs. Real quick, let's talk about what you should do if you don't see any teams over here on the left. So if you don't see any teams, that means that you have not been invited to any teams yet. And that's definitely possible, especially if you're an early adopter of teams. There might not be any teams that you're available to use yet. And if that's the case, you can go down here to the bottom and click join or create a team. Now, I will let you know that creating a team is usually limited. There usually are not a lot of people within an organization who are available to make teams. It is usually pretty limited. But if you are able to make a team, you can click create team right here. If not, you may be able to request team creation if you have a good idea for a team. But you also have the ability to join teams from this menu. Here we can join a team with a code, which is something I will talk about in a few minutes when I talk about managing teams. But just know that this is where you will join a team with a code when you have a team code. But then we also have some public teams that we can join here. Whenever a team is created, it is you decide whether you want it to be a private team or a public team. And a private team will require you need to be invited to it to be able to join it. However, a public team, anyone can join. Just like I can go down to this join or create a team menu and I can see the public teams available to me, and I can click join team and that will have that team show up here. Real quick, let's just click on create team just so you can see what that looks like. Now you'll see I have two options here. I can build a team from scratch, or I can create from an existing Microsoft 365 group or team. So if I already have a team created and I want those same people to be in another team, I can choose that. Or if I haven't made any teams yet and I already have a Microsoft 365 group set up and I want to bring all those people into my teams, I can click on that. and bring all those people into an existing team. The best part of that is if you already have a SharePoint site that you've been using for some time and you already have documents uploaded to it and you create from that existing Microsoft 365 group, then the team that you create will use the same SharePoint site that has already existed, so you will have access to all the same files. So it's pretty cool. If you're already using Microsoft 365 groups, I definitely recommend you use that to bring in information to teams. But let's just click on build a team from scratch, and now you can see that I have two options here. I can create a private team where people will need to be invited, or I can create a public team, which is going to be like one of these teams where anybody in my organization can just go in here and join these teams. There is one other kind of team called an organization-wide team, but just like creating teams in general is pretty limited, creating an organization-wide team is even more limited than that. And it's usually only higher-ups and system administrators who will create organization-wide teams. But an organization-wide team essentially is a team that everybody in the organization will be automatically added to and cannot leave. So if you want a team for your entire organization, you can look up or talk to your system administrator about creating an organization-wide team. So now that we've talked about creating and joining teams, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about using teams. So we have a little bit of a difference between how conversations work in Teams versus how conversations work in chats. If you remember, chats are fluid, they are free-flowing conversations, and essentially it's much like having a conversation in a text message thread or a direct message thread or instant messaging. Conversations in Teams and channels are much more like posting on social media. So if you are familiar with Facebook or Twitter or something like that, you make a post, and then once a post is made, other people can reply to it. So you can see a lot of posts in here, but we can see this post right here says 3 replies. And now we have multiple replies that have been made to this post. Mod Administrator added this tab at the top of the channel, and I can go in and I can click reply, and I can say thank you, and then mention Mod Administrator. And there we go. I have now replied to that post, and you can see that it contains in there. You definitely don't want to be the person that tries to reply to a post and accidentally starts a new conversation. But let's look at what it looks like to create a new conversation. So I'm actually going to go up here to Teamwork Champions, and I'm going to make a conversation in here, and I'm going to make this a new type of post that wasn't available to us in chat called an announcement. So I get to that by clicking on the formatting button here, and you'll see that first I have the ability to add a subject, and that's pretty cool, and I could do that if I wanted to, but if I wanted to really catch everybody's attention, I'm going to go up here to where it says New Conversation. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on Announcement. And now I can create a new announcement. Let's make our very creative headline right here. And let's go over here to the side where we can change the color. I really like this navy blue color here. And I can add a subject. You'll notice that next to the announcement color, there is also a picture icon. So you can actually upload an image as a background for this announcement as well. And that's pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and click send here. And as you can see, now I have made that announcement. And over here on the right, we even have a little icon telling us that this is an announcement. If I wanted to, I could go in here and I could edit the announcement. And I could mark it as important as well. And I can even post it in multiple channels. So right now I'm posting it in general of Teamwork channels, but maybe I also wanted to, Teamwork Champions, sorry. Maybe I also wanted to post it in Teamwork Champions, the copy. And I'll post it in there as well. And we'll hit this little checkbox saying that we're done. And now you'll see that that exclamation point has actually overridden the announcement, because essentially an exclamation point is more important than an announcement. You'll see right here we have a symbol showing us that this message has been posted in two different places. It was posted in Teamwork Champions General and Teamwork Champions Copy General. But you will see that when a message is posted in two different channels, the replies will be unique to what channel they were made in. So if I reply to this message right here, if I go over to Teamwork Champions here, and then you'll see we had that exclamation point right there. There is no reply to this message. So once again, when you post a message in multiple channels at the same time, the replies are going to be unique to that specific channel. So that is how conversations in channels and teams work differently than conversations in chats. And before I go any further, I do just want to answer one of our more common questions that we get a lot. And that question is, when should I use a team versus a group chat? Or when should I make a new channel in a team versus just making a group chat? And the answer to that is really, you want to make a chat for more conversational reasons, for more discussion. A team and a channel within a team is more for information. It's for getting information out to people quickly and easily. It is for saving files as resources that you want large groups of people to be able to see. Let me give you, whereas a chat is more for a private conversation that you're having with a specific group of coworkers. So let me give you an example of how I've used Teams in the past and how we use channels versus chat. So when I worked in the Microsoft Store, I was a service advisor. I worked at the answer desk. I fixed computers that people brought into our store for appointments. And essentially, we had a team that was for our entire store. Everybody who worked in our store was a part of that Microsoft team. Within that team, we had many different channels, and each channel represented a different focus in the store. Now, I was a service advisor, but that doesn't mean that I didn't also focus on business sales or community or gaming or inventory. My job was to fix computers, but I wasn't always fixing computers, and sometimes I would be doing something else. So we had a different channel for each focus. We had a channel for answer desk, which is where we fix computers. We had a channel for inventory. We had a channel for gaming, for community, for business sales. And anytime anybody wanted to get information out to the entire team, they would post it in one of those channels. So if somebody who worked for inventory, if we ran out of stock of something, they might post it in our inventory channel and say, hey, everybody, just so you know, we ran out of Xboxes. Or, hey, everybody, we just got a new shipment of Surfaces in. That is something we would want to post in channels because there's not a lot of discussion that's going to go around that usually. It's usually just you read the information and you're like, okay, maybe you reply and say, thanks for letting us know. Or maybe you just give it a little thumbs up. But there's not a lot of discussion that goes around that usually. Same with if we change a process for the answer desk, maybe we change the way we do something. And yes, it is going to be most relevant to people who work at the answer desk, service advisors like myself, but maybe it's something that everybody still should know, even if they don't work at the answer desk. So we would post that in the answer desk channel and everybody would be able to see it, even though it's most pertinent to the service advisors. Now, let's say we're talking about a computer that we checked in from the answer desk, and I need to tell my other service advisors what needs to be done with that computer. Now, the other employees, like the salesman, the inventory, they're not going to be able to do anything with that computer, so they don't really need to hear this information. That is where I would then use a group chat. I would have a group chat with all of my fellow answer desk employees, and we would be able to use that group chat to talk about things that really only we needed to know or only we cared about. So that's where we would share our, like I said, computers that have been checked in, what need to be done with them, maybe upcoming appointments that we are going to be taking, maybe talking about a specific customer and what their expectations were. That is something that would be handled in a group chat because it's much more conversational and it's more of a discussion. But when there's information that everybody needs to know, that's when we would use a channel within a team. So hopefully that makes sense. That is a question that we get all the time, and I just wanted to go into that a little bit briefly. The next thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about specifically the tabs that we have at the top here. So every channel starts with 3 tabs, and that's going to be Posts, Files, and Wiki. I will get to Files in just a second. I'm going to skip over to Wiki real quick because I just want to, again, bring up an example of why you would use this. I'm going to talk about how I used it at the answer desk. So a wiki is essentially, and I can hit this to show the sections, it's essentially like Wikipedia, if you're familiar with that. It's basically a list of pages and sections that you can use to add information and divide up resources. So the way I used it was when we were fixing computers, one of the things we needed to do was use command prompt. And if you've used command prompt before, you know that there are a lot of different things you can use with command prompt. If you hadn't, just trust me on that. There's a lot. There are many different commands that you would need to use in command prompt. And so what we did was we created a wiki within our answer desk channel. And in that wiki, we would have different pages based on the kind of command we wanted to use. And then each section would be its own command and what you would use it for. And that's how we would use our wiki. Really, you can use your wiki for whatever you like. You could use it for maybe how-tos or processes that you want to put within your team. Really, because it is a blank canvas, you can put pretty much any information in there you want. So now that I've mentioned the wiki, let's talk about this files menu here. So you will see that this has already been organized a little bit. We have some folders right here. We have a file, the newsletter template, that has already been uploaded. And if you remember, when I was talking about it earlier, whenever you create a team, it's either going to be based on an already existing Microsoft 365 group, or it's going to create a new Microsoft 365 group. And every Microsoft 365 group does have a SharePoint site with a shared document library. In fact, if you see in this menu right here, we have an ellipsis, and real quick, I'm just going to click on this button, Open in SharePoint, and you will see that it actually takes us to the SharePoint site for this team, Newsletter Ninjas right here, and here are our documents. And in fact, these documents are going to be divided up by what channel they were uploaded to. So if I click on documents right here, you'll see that we actually have different folders for each of the channels in our team. So this is what I mean when I say that Teams is built on SharePoint on the back end. All of the files that you upload within a team will actually upload to the corresponding channel folder in the SharePoint site. And that can be pretty useful because you can do a lot of cool stuff in SharePoint that you can't do in Teams, but that's a different training. We're not really going to get into that today. Today, I do just want to talk about some of the collaboration options we have when uploading files to Microsoft Teams. First, I'm just going to talk about these menu options real quick. If I click new here, I can make a new folder. I can also make a new document, Word document, Excel workbook, PowerPoint presentation, OneNote notebook. Or if I already have one made, I can upload them, either a file or a folder. I can upload directly here. If I click on sync right here, this is actually a really cool feature that I like a lot. It allows me to sync this SharePoint folder to my computer as if it were a OneDrive folder. So if you've used OneDrive, you might know that in your File Explorer, you have a OneDrive folder, which acts just like a normal folder on your computer, except anything that you save in there automatically gets uploaded to OneDrive. The same thing is if I click this sync button. It will add this SharePoint folder to my computer, and anything that I put in that folder will automatically upload to this SharePoint folder, and I can work on the files in that SharePoint folder directly on my computer, and any changes I make will upload to the cloud. So that's pretty cool. I definitely recommend doing that if you find yourself spending a whole lot of time working on files in a specific channel. We can copy a link to this folder. We can download everything from this folder, which will download all of these folders and files as a zip folder. I don't really recommend doing this because, as we're going to see here in a couple minutes, when you work on a file within Teams or within SharePoint, all the changes that you make are automatically saved and shared with everybody who has access to that file. And because of that, we can eliminate what we call document version confusion. I'm sure everybody can relate to emailing a file back and forth with somebody, and then all of a sudden somebody responds to not the most recent email in the thread, and now you have 3 different versions of the same file, all with different changes. I've had that happen to me before. It's kind of a pain. And if you click on this download button, it is going to download copies of everything in here, and you may not want to necessarily do that. So only use this as a last ditch effort if you really can't sync this folder to your computer. And then we can add cloud storage again. If our organization uses something other than OneDrive, you can add that right here. But let's talk about what happens when we upload a file here and what options we have to us. So here we have our newsletter template, and if I click on this, it's actually going to open this file directly inside Microsoft Teams. And here you can see, here is our file right here, our Newsletter Ninjas file. We can see all of our content right here. I already wrote something about the new Batman movie that I was very excited about, so you can see that right there. And I'm previewing this right now, but I can also click Edit up here. Now, this little arrow next to that allows me to edit in Teams, open it in the desktop app, or open it in the browser. I'm just going to click Edit in Teams, and it is going to open it here directly within Teams. Now, one thing you might notice is that opening it within Teams itself is the same as opening it within the web app. What that means is that you are going to have somewhat limited functionality. The web app is the free version of Microsoft Word, same with Excel and PowerPoint. So you're not going to have all of the same options available to you. As you can see, some of the formatting of this newsletter does not show up here in the web app version, but that's okay. I have this button right here, and if I click on that, it'll immediately open up this file in my desktop app, and I will be able to use the full functionality of Microsoft Word. However, I will still be collaborating on this file with other people, even if I open it in the desktop app. It's not downloading a copy, it's still keeping the original version of the file. Now, you can co-author a file with up to 99 people at once. The sweet spot is usually around 10 or 15 just to kind of avoid confusion, but there are some limits that have been put in to reduce confusion. If everybody's working on a Word document, then you must be working in different paragraphs at the same time. If everybody's working in an Excel spreadsheet, you must be working in different cells at the same time. And if everybody is working on a PowerPoint presentation, you must be working on different slides at the same time. That was just put in place so people aren't constantly erasing each other's sentences. While you are in a file, however, you have the ability to have a conversation with the other people who are currently in the file as well. So we could talk to each other here within this file, and we would not have to even leave, and we could talk about what's going on. In addition to that, we can also add comments just like you can in normal versions of Word. And one of the things you may be thinking is, if everybody has access to this file and everybody has the ability to change anything, what if somebody makes changes that I don't want? Well, that's not what I want. I want to hit close. Well, what we can do is we can actually access something called version history. So version history only works if we have it downloaded on the, or if we have it open in the desktop app, or if we have it open in SharePoint. So let's go click open in SharePoint for newsletter template. And now I can click on this ellipsis right here, and one of my options is version history. And I can click on that, and it'll give me all the different versions of this file. It'll show me who modified it. So mod administrator created it, but then I modified it later. And I can look at all these different versions, and I can view those different versions, or I can restore an older version. So this is useful if you have lots of people working on the same file, but maybe somebody made some changes to the file that you don't like. You can restore that to an earlier version. And the last thing I want to bring up about Teams before I move on to calendar and meetings is the fact that you can actually add custom tabs up here at the top. So each of these tabs here is a different custom tabs. Before I click on any of these, let's go ahead and click on this plus button, and we're going to see what kind of custom tabs we can add. We can add a SharePoint document library. We can add an Excel file. We can add a list, a OneNote notebook. We can add a planner. We can add a link to Power BI. We can add a PowerPoint presentation. We can add a SharePoint site. We can add a video or a channel for a stream. We can add a website. We can add another wiki, or we can add a Word document. We can even add Microsoft Power Apps as well. If I click on newsletter tips and tricks, this is actually a website tab, and it's going to load this website here within Microsoft Teams itself. So here we can see we've got our nice little website about creating newsletters, and it is all right there for us to see. Keep in mind that if you want to add a website as a tab, it does need to be a secured website, which means up here it needs to start with HTTPS. If it is not secured, it will not have the S, it will only say HTTP. So it does need to be a secured website. If it doesn't load correctly, you can always click here and it will take you directly to the website. The other thing we have is, as we can see here, our newsletter was added as a tab. This is our working newsletter as of August 30th. So we can go in and look at this and work on it directly from this tab up here. So this is what I meant by tabs being like appliances and furniture. These are the resources that we need to get work done within this channel. So we have everything that we need here. We have our tips and tricks, we have our meeting notes, we have our assignments, we have a feedback survey, and we have our newsletter itself. It's all available right here. So that is how you work with tabs within Microsoft Teams. So I do want to move on to calendar and meetings. I do just want to ask everybody and remind everybody that we do have a Q&A section over on the right. If you do have any questions, please feel free to ask. That is why we're here, to answer your questions. But for now, I am going to move on to calendar and talk about calendar and creating meetings. So here we are in the calendar, and like I said, Outlook and Teams will reflect each other in their calendars. Any event you create in Microsoft Teams will show up in your Outlook calendar, and any event you create in Outlook will show up in your Teams calendar. Now, the difference being, any meeting I create in Teams is going to create its own virtual conference room. And that virtual conference room is only available for those meetings that were created in Teams. So here we can see the meetings that I have created, and because they create a virtual conference room, you can see the word join right here because this meeting is supposed to be going on. However, I'm not going to join that just yet. Let's talk about what it looks like creating a meeting in Teams. So I mentioned that creating a meeting in Teams will create a virtual conference room. Keep in mind that creating a meeting in Outlook, unless you enable a specific option that makes it a Teams meeting, will not create that virtual conference room. It will just be a standard meeting or event in Outlook. So here we have the ability to add a title to our meeting. We can also add some required attendees. I'll add my standbys, Abby, Adam, Bonnie, but let's add somebody else. Let's add Asia. Don't I have Akash? I thought Akash mentioned me. Interesting. Okay, that's fine. Do we have Mike? Jordan Miller, that's fine. And Allison. So you'll notice that Jordan's name turned red when we added him. And that is because Jordan actually has a conflict during this time period. The meeting automatically set itself for 2:30, and Jordan has a conflict. So let's go up to Scheduling Assistant here, and let's look at our calendars. So now we can see all the people here and when they have meetings. So myself, Abby, Adam, and Bonnie all have a meeting from 2 to 2:30, but Jordan has a meeting from 2:30 to 3. So up here at the top, you can see that both of those are blocked out because this is all attendees. You can also see that Jordan has meetings at 11:30 and 12:30. This is how we can tell when we want our meetings to be. So because I know those people all have those meetings, we can go forward. We can look at other things over here. We can see that Adam has a meeting from 4 to 4:30 on Thursday. Let's just go ahead and make the meeting for tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And I can even drag this if I want to make it longer or shorter. And let's make it 45 minutes. Make it a 45-minute meeting. We'll go back to details here. And we have some other options here. We can make it a repeating meeting. We can make it repeat every weekday. We can make it repeat every day, weekly, monthly, yearly, and custom. Let's just go ahead and make it a weekly meeting. We can add a Teams channel to this meeting if we like. We can also add a location if maybe in addition to being a virtual conference room meeting, we also want to meet physically somewhere. And here we can add details to that meeting, very similar to how we are adding a meeting for, let's just call this Wednesday lunch. Similar to how we would add description to a meeting in Outlook. Let's go ahead and send that invitation. And there we go. There is our Wednesday lunch meeting, and we can see it occurs the next week as well. But I'm late for this meeting right here. It was at 2 o'clock. It's now 2:15. I'm a little bit late for it, so let's go ahead and click join, and we're going to jump right into this meeting. I'm not going to let it use my microphone and my camera. I'm just going to continue without audio or video. But I do want to talk a little bit about this menu right here. And this is the lobby for this meeting, also known as the powder room, which essentially allows us to make some settings changes before we jump into this virtual meeting. It tells us our meeting title up here. And if I had my camera enabled, it would give me a preview of what my camera is seeing right here. I can also choose to turn my camera off or turn my mic on or off. I would recommend whenever you join a meeting, just join with your camera and microphone off. It's a best practice because you don't want to join a meeting while somebody else is talking and then all of a sudden your background noise is being broadcast to everybody in the meeting. Here you have the ability to adjust your speaker and microphone and camera. before you jump into the meeting. You also have the ability to join with audio off. This is useful if there are other people in the room that are already in this meeting. You can join with audio off so you don't create echo or reverb. You can use your phone for microphone and speaker while you watch the meeting presentation on your device screen. This is only available if you have the extra calling license. And then if you have a conference room with audio-visual equipment, you can add that room right here. But that's enough. Let's go ahead and click join. So here we are in our meeting, and we have a bar right here that gives us various options. First item we have is our meeting timer, and that shows us how long the meeting has been going. Next, we have the ability to turn the camera on, as well as unmute and mute ourselves. Next to that, we have the share tray. And if I click on this, it gives me a couple options here. It says screen share right here, and I can use that to share my entire screen or a specific window on my screen. So for example, right now, I am sharing only my web browser with you. And if I were to click off to another program, like right now, I can look at my email, for example, but you are not able to see that because I am only sharing this window with you right here. So I can do that. But if I had a PowerPoint, I could actually just share the PowerPoint. And I wouldn't even have to open it. I would just be able to click on it, share that PowerPoint, and everybody else would be able to see that PowerPoint. I'm going to skip over more actions for now, and I'm going to jump over to these options over here. Next, we have the ability to raise our hand. And if I click on that, it will inform everybody else that my hand is raised. And this is useful if somebody is presenting and either you have a question or you would like to speak next. You can raise your hand. People will show up in the list by the order that they raise their hand, so you will be able to see who raised their hand first. It can also be used for impromptu polling. If you want to poll people, if you want to ask them, hey, is everybody okay if we do this? If you agree, raise your hand. And everybody can raise their hand, and you can count how many people have raised their hands. Next to that, we have the ability to show our conversation. Now, if you remember, I have mentioned that if you are in a meeting, then everybody in that meeting has access to the group chat for this meeting. So this is a group chat, and you will see that there's a message here from September 3rd. And that is because if you have a recurring meeting, then the group chat for that recurring meeting is going to be consistent with every single meeting that you have. So that's one of my favorite things about group chats and meetings. And if you're not in this meeting, you can still participate in the group chat, and you can still use that group chat for reference after the fact. And it acts just like a normal group chat. Next, we can show participants, and here we can see everybody who's currently in the meeting, as well as people who were invited. You can see that little hand icon next to my name, showing that my hand is raised. Let's go ahead and lower my hand now. And we can see the other people that we invited to the meeting. If I click on this ellipsis here, I can ask them to join the meeting with me. If I click on that, it will attempt to call them into the meeting. However, Abby is offline. It's not going to work right now, but it will call them, and it will say, excuse me, it will say that Shane is calling you into this meeting. And then lastly, if we have those calling options, we can put in a phone number here and dial them into the meeting. Lastly, on this menu, we have the hang up button, which is pretty self-explanatory. Click on that, it removes me from the meeting. Meeting still goes on, but I am out of the meeting. If I click on more actions here, we have quite a few other things available to us. We can bring those device settings up again. We can show the meeting notes if anybody wants to take meeting notes or minutes. We can show the meeting details. If somebody wants to dial in manually, here is the phone number and the conference ID. Keep in mind, again, that is only available if you have the extra calling plan. We can enter a phone number if we want to be called by the meeting, and we can copy the join info if we want to send it to anybody. We can enter full screen here. We can bring up a keypad, which is useful if we are calling somebody in and they have an extension. We can record the meeting, which if I record the meeting, it will save as a video file and upload to Microsoft Stream with myself as the owner. Keep in mind, only the organizer of a meeting can record the meeting or a designated presenter. That's a little bit deeper into advanced teams. So if you'd like to learn more about that, I recommend visiting that YouTube playlist and watching the Smart Meetings training or attending one of our Smart Meeting trainings we are having in the future. Here I can click End Meeting, and what that does is it instead of just disconnecting me from the meeting because I'm the organizer, I can end the meeting so everybody gets kicked out of the meeting. And I can turn off incoming video, which is useful if maybe Teams is taking up a lot of bandwidth and I want to make sure that I'm not seeing other people's video. It just turns off video for me. I won't be able to see anybody's video, but it's still something that can be pretty useful. And that is about everything when it comes to meetings. So the last thing I'm going to talk about today is let's go ahead and talk about some of the options we have in our settings menu. So here we have the ability to change our picture. This will change it for everywhere in Microsoft 365. We also have the ability to change our availability. Now, if our availability is has not been manually changed, it will change automatically based on what we are doing. Available means we do not have any meetings going on and we are currently using Teams. Busy means we are either in a meeting currently or we are scheduled to be in a meeting. Do not disturb means that we are currently presenting in a meeting. And if you are do not disturb, then you will not receive any notifications from Teams for the duration of being do not disturb. Be right back is a status that can only be set manually, and it essentially tells people you're away, but that you will be right back. And appear away will happen if you go 5 minutes without interacting with Teams. You will be set to away status. You can change to any of these settings manually. Keep in mind though, if you change to any of these manually, you will not be able to change back, or you will not change back automatically unless you click on available or click reset status. So be careful if you're setting yourself to do not disturb, because then you will no longer receive notifications. Here we can set a status message, and this is useful if you are going to be out of office and you want to direct people to somebody else, or just tell them when you're going to be back. You can view your saved messages here. And then we also have some settings. So here in the settings, we can change our theme for Teams. We have a default theme. We also have a dark theme, which is what I use personally. I just don't think it looks as good for presenting. And I can also use a high contrast theme if that's something I wanted to use. Let's go back to default here. I can change the app language. I can change the keyboard language. Under privacy, we can add somebody to priority access, which means that when we are do not disturb, we'll still receive notifications from them. So that's useful if there's somebody you want to be able to get in contact with you at any time. We can block people. We can enable read receipts. And then here we have our notification settings, where we can change what kind of notifications we get for any function within Teams. And if I were you, I would recommend going in and disabling the email notifications for all of these that have it enabled, because if you start using Teams a lot like I do, you will find pretty quickly that your inbox gets overloaded with Teams emails because you're getting an email every time you get a chat message like, holy cow, I cannot believe I ever had that enabled in my normal Teams. Other than that, you can go through and check what other information you want. And then lastly, you can change some call settings, configure your voicemails, all that sort of stuff. And all right, I think that is about it when it comes to this Teams training. We have a couple minutes left, So I'm just going to stick around here for a few minutes. If anybody has any other questions, please feel free to let us know. And please follow this link that I am posting to take a post-session feedback survey. We look forward to your feedback, and we would definitely appreciate it if you would take the time to fill that out. Not only does it ask you how we are doing today, or how we did today, but it also asks what kind of content you would like to see in the future. So please, if you get a chance, follow that link and take that survey. So again, I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes here. And if anybody has any other questions, please feel free to ask. But otherwise, thank you everybody for being here and have a wonderful day. All right, it doesn't look like we have any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and close out this live event. Once again, thank you very much for coming today. Please feel free to check out our video playlist on YouTube and fill out that feedback form for us. Appreciate you being here. Have a wonderful day.